I tried it once. And it is not to be, I don't advise doing it if you have an active imagination. Um, and even if you're not by yourself, if you're deep enough in the woods, even the smallest sound, you're pretty sure is something enormous with large fangs and teeth and all of that. At least I do. I am not a great camper. I love the outdoors, but I never sleep. It's just no sleep there whatsoever. And by yourself is completely different. How many people found camping by themselves peaceful? Yeah, y'all are, I don't know what species y'all are, but not my species. I tried it once. I hiked a couple miles back in the woods and then just stayed awake the whole night, just going, what was that? What was that? And my mind went from like raccoons to bears to cougars to serial killers to, I mean, it was just, and I remember laying there in the tent in the dark and just feeling so alone, and was quite sure that something had changed in the spinning of the world and dawn would never come. That I was just going to be stuck there in the dark forever. So that kind of feeling, if anyone's ever experienced that before, is what Zechariah and Elizabeth were going through emotionally. For decades, they had wanted a child. They had prayed, they had hoped, they were faithful, they did all the things you're supposed to do to be good, faithful people. And this one hope, like my hope for dawn to finally arrive so I could hike as fast as I could out of the woods, they were waiting for a child. And they had been disappointed, right? And still, even in their disappointment, Zechariah showed up to the temple. He was a priest. Still, he showed up to the temple and he did his priestly duty. He burned incense when he was selected to burn incense. He did the rituals, he did the work. And all throughout that, heaven remained silent. And this is where we meet him in Luke's gospel this morning. He's standing in the temple. He's kind of going through the motions of faith. He's doing what he's supposed to do as a priest. And yet, you've got to feel for him because he probably still has a little hope. But as the years have gone by, that hope has probably diminished or been tamped down. And that's a feeling that I think we all relate to, where we have a hope. It starts off as a big hope. And then the years go by, or there's setbacks, and that hope kind of just gets smaller and smaller. Doesn't always go away, hopefully doesn't go away, but it's a small little flicker. Maybe you're waiting for some sort of healing that hasn't completely happened yet, or you're waiting for a relationship to be restored, or a job situation to resolve, clarity about something confusing in your life. Maybe waiting for the political chaos to settle down and violence to stop and the world to make sense again. Or maybe we're just tired. Tired of the anger, tired of the fear, tired of it feeling like the bad people are having the upper hand right now. And so we gather this first Sunday of Advent, which is the beginning of the church year, by the way. This is our New Year's Day, just FYI. And the world around us feels kind of heavy. Turning on the news is rarely a joyous thing. I haven't met anybody these days who clicks on the news and is like, yes. And into all this, all of us gathered here with Jack and Phyllis's help this morning, and next week it'll be somebody else who will do this audacious thing. Jack and Phyllis, did you know you were doing something audacious this morning? I don't think I talked to you about that. This audacious thing to stand up and light a candle of hope. And for us to gather to hear about hope and to claim hope. The story of Zechariah is one of my favorites because notice that The angel doesn't show up to Zechariah on a mountaintop, right? We always think that spiritual experiences only occur when the outside, our physical environment, matches what is happening spiritually. He's not at the pinnacle of a mountain. He's actually doing something that he's done before. He's going through, he's basically just doing his job as a priest. And he shows up, which is good, the power of showing up, and he's lighting the incense and saying the prayers, and it probably feels routine because he's done it before. And nothing seems to be different this time from when he's done it before. And the angel appears at the right side of the altar of incense. And that specific detail matters because the altar of incense, let's see if we can do it. So consider anything beyond this railing to be the inner part of the temple. That's sacred. That's where God's toes touch the earth. And then there was this space, say it's right here where the altar of incense was, and it was kind of in between the holiest of holies and where everyone gathered. And so Zechariah was in this middle, in this liminal place, not quite where God's toes touched the ground and not out with the riffraff, but right there in the middle. It was a threshold between divine and human. And that's where he stood in the moment where the angel appeared. And the angel had a message for him, which seems to be the angel's preferred message, which is what? Fear not. Don't be afraid. Almost every time we have an angel appearing, they say that. And we don't know if it's because, well, biblically, angels aren't these shining white characters with wings. In the Bible, angels are intimidating, to say the least. But we don't know what shape the angel took. So we don't know if the message to not be afraid was because angels would be kind of like a, oh my, kind of thing when you saw them. Or the angels understood that when something big happens in our lives, our first response is generally not, woohoo! Our first response is like, oh crud. Like when we find out maybe we're expecting. It's joyful, but my experience was that I remember when my wife, she came home and she handed me, now this is very ironic, she handed me a Bill Cosby's book on fatherhood. In hindsight, had we known, this is before Bill got caught for all of that stuff. So he didn't have particular chapters on certain subjects, which is great. And then showed me the little pregnancy test. And my response was, at the exact same time, like, wow! And expletive about, oh my goodness, I'm going to be a parent. I don't know how to be a parent. It was fear. It was fear. But the angel comes in and tells Zechariah, don't be afraid. And then he says, your prayer has been heard. It doesn't say answered. But it does say your prayer has been heard. God has been hearing it all along. I think this is what hope looks like in the biblical imagination. It's not just wishful thinking. And it's not optimism. And it's not pretending that sometimes our hopes and dreams don't come true. And it's not pretending that the darkness isn't real. We know, like, our scripture reading began with the words, in the days of King Herod. Herod, that tells us something, right? Herod was not a beloved ruler by any stretch. So the context of Zechariah hearing this news was one that was dark. It starts to tell us, and it starts to inform us about what hope really is and what it looks like. It's wild. And hope is unreasonable. It's a conviction that God is still at work even when we can't see it. That God is still at work even when it doesn't happen according to our timelines. It's telling us this is what hope is. And we see hope in Zechariah and Elizabeth, not a flaming bonfire of hope, but just this stubborn refusal to not let that little flame of hope go out. That's still hope. It's showing up at the altar to light the incense one more time and to say the prayers, wondering, do you hear me, God? That's still hope. Hope is the possibility that God might break into our ordinary lives and say, I haven't forgotten you. I haven't abandoned you. Something is happening. Something is even beginning right now. And here's something that's, I think, really special about this text, this story. When God breaks into Zechariah and Elizabeth's life, it's not just for their sake. I mean, it's big news to them, really big news to them. But the angel tells them that their son will bring back many of the people of Israel to the Lord their God. It's certainly a personal miracle for Zechariah and Elizabeth. This thing they had dreamt of and hoped for, that they'd almost given up hope on, was going to happen. But it wasn't just for them. It's something that ripples out into the community. And I think that's important for us, because our hope matters. The hope each of us carries in our hearts. Our showing up matters. Showing up not just here to church, but showing up at protest and marches and when we vote. Showing up at city council meetings, just showing up for our spouses when they're having a tough time. Showing up for one another, knowing that everybody in here is struggling with something powerful. It's a refusal to believe that God is not active anymore. Hope is trusting and choosing to trust that God still might break in. And that's kind of a biblical scholar. It's not breaking in like a burglar, even though it might a little bit. But it's like inbreaking, God moving into our lives. And we realize that it matters to all of us. What you hope matters to all of us. When the Vital Merger team was doing its work, and I know I've shared this story, one of the hardest parts was trying to figure out a name. I suggested some names that were really artsy and out there, and everyone rightly said, nah. And then we were looking at like New Hope and Bright Hope and all this stuff, and then one of the members, and I can't even remember who, just said, what about hope? It seems to me that what we're doing is about hope. Because we have no guarantees about anything, right? We don't know if this merger is going to work, especially when we were going through it back then. We don't know if we're going to get along, or if there's going to be Bellevue First people on this side and St. Peter's here, and there's going to be a rumble like the Sharks and the Jets from, what is that movie and play? West Side Story, that's it. Yeah. And here we are, almost a year in. No dance battles across the aisle have happened yet, even though that would be pretty cool. Come on. We're still figuring things out, right? We're not done with this work yet. We're still wondering what comes next. We're still working. We're still developing and asking our questions. And importantly, most importantly, we're still showing up. We're still lighting our candles. We're still singing the songs and ringing the bells. We're gathering together in our liminal space where the divine meets the human, and wondering what might be. Creating space for God in our hearts, in our collective lives. We know that the darkness in our world and in our lives is real right now. The division, the violence, the fear, the exhaustion, it's all real. And I think it's important for all of us just to be able to nod our heads and go, yep, it is. This is a unique time in our lives. But Advent, this Sunday, and tomorrow and next Sunday, all of Advent reminds us that the darkness is not the end of the story. In fact, that's much of the Christ story itself. That darkness does not win, and darkness will not win. And it doesn't mean that there won't be times when it feels dark as a tomb, right? It feels like you're camping by yourself in the middle of the woods, and you're not Steve and a few of those other people who like that. Much braver than I am, for sure. The darkness can feel real, but the darkness is not going to win, and the dawn will always come. And Advent reminds us that God seems to kind of specialize in coming into situations that we as humans call impossible, and then doing surprising, unexpected things. Like a child being born to a couple who couldn't have children, a Messiah being born to an unwed teenager in occupied territory, a kingdom built on grace rather than power, a kingdom built on love rather than violence, the last becoming first and the first becoming last. All of these things. None of it makes sense. That's the beauty of it. And what's required of us is just to keep hoping in it. Hope in what seems foolish. What's asked of us is just keep showing up. Even if you're having a bad stretch. Even if you're like, God's not listening. Keep showing up. We show up and we light our candles. We light our incense. We don't really, but it'd be kind of cool if we did. Today we lit the first candle of Advent, the candle of hope. And we light it not because everything's perfect and we have it all figured out, because that wouldn't be hope, would it? We light it because we are a people who have decided to believe that that light is stronger than the darkness. We light it because we are a people who refuse to give up and give in. We light it so that we are reminded to stay open to the possibility that God will surprise us. We light it because we are Hope Church, and hope is what we do best. So this Advent season, I invite you, just show up. Just keep showing up. Show up not just here to church, but show up in your own lives. Keep lighting the incense. And what that means is like, show up in the liminal places and recognize that everywhere we go is a liminal space. It's that space where divine and human are together. Keep saying your prayers. Keep gathering with people who are also choosing hope, even when it feels hard. Watch for those threshold moments. Pay attention. Notice that there might be angels appearing in your midst, and hopefully they don't scare you. But they might. Trust that the prayers that we speak are heard. Not always answered, not answered in the time that we want. And as there's a good country song that says something about, like, thank God for unanswered prayers, sometimes the answer is no. And that's also a blessing. Remember that God is not finished with you. God is not finished with us. God is not finished with this church. And God is not finished with this beautiful but broken world. Like in the lives of Elizabeth and Zechariah, something is beginning, even now. A light is coming to shine in the darkness, and the darkness will not overcome it. Thanks be to God, and together we say, Amen. We are going to sing kind of a new Advent hymn, but to a familiar